India and the world. Now I would like to invite our co-chairperson, Dr. Sumit Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, University of Delhi, on the stage. Sir, please come on the stage. Now, I would like to invite our resource person, Dr. Nibedita Roy, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Bangladesh, and Sharif Noorjahan, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Bangladesh. I would also request our other resource person, Dr. Mohan Singh Sagu, Associate Professor, Baba Farid Law College, Faridkot. Sir, please come on the stage.
Honorable co-chairperson and members of the panel, and dear dignitaries, myself, Dr. M.S. Saggu, I am presenting my views on foreign policy of India under BJP government. Foreign policy of Modi government, also referred to as Modi Doctrine, concerns the policy initiative made towards other states by current Modi government after he assumed office as Prime Minister on 5th May 2014. The Ministry of External Affairs, headed by External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar, is responsible for carrying out the foreign policy of India. Modi's foreign policy is currently focused on improving relations with the neighboring countries of South Asia and engaging the extended neighborhood in Southeast Asia and major global powers. In pursuit of this, he has made official visit to Bhutan, Nepal, Japan within 100 days of his government, followed by United States, Myanmar, and Fiji. India's Look East policy to act as Act East policy. From the very beginning, the Modi government-led government made it ample clear that India would focus more and more on improving relations with ASEAN and other East Asian countries as per India's Look East policy, which was formulated during the Prime Ministership of Narasimha Rao government in 1992 for better economic engagement with its eastern neighbors, but successive government later successfully turned it into a tool of foreign strategic partnership and security cooperation with countries in that region in general and Vietnam and Japan in particular. One of the major policy initiatives taken by Modi government is to focus back on its immediate neighbors in South Asia. Gujarat Doctrine was important approach where India made its relations with its neighborhood, which stands for 5 important principles. Even before becoming the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi hinted that his foreign policy will actively focus on improving ties with India's immediate neighbors, which is being termed neighborhood first policy in the media. And he started well by inviting all heads of state, heads of government of South Asian countries in his inaugural, and on the second day on office, he held bilateral talk with all of them individually, which was dubbed as Mini SAARC Summit by the media. Later, during the launch event at ISRO, he has asked Indian scientists to take the endeavor to develop and dedicated SAARC satellite to share the fruits of technology like telemedicine, e-learning, etc. Then cooperation with the Pacific Islands. Modi chose to visit Fiji soon after democracy was re-established in Iceland country after 8 years. There, apart from bilateral meeting, he also met heads of state government from 14 Pacific Island states to enhance India's engagement in region and proposed a forum for India Pacific Island cooperation be held on a regular basis. So I conclude my views on the topic. He conveyed there India's keenness to work closely with the Pacific Island relations to advance their development priorities. In this regard, a number of measures to strengthen India's partnership in the region were proposed, which include setting up of a special fund of 1 billion for adopting climate change vis-a-vis clean energy, establishing a trade office in India. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our other resource person, Dr. Nibedita Roy, on the podium. Ma'am, please come and say a few words. Nibedita ma'am, and also Sharif Noorjahan ma'am also.
Good morning, distinguished guests, fellow researchers, and esteemed colleagues of today's third International IIHSG International Conference on Security, Identity and Global Governance, India and the World. I am truly honored to stand before here today to share our research findings on the topic of great importance: identity politics and nomination, and analysis on parliamentary elections of Bangladesh from 1991 to 2018. I am Sharif Noorjahan from the Department of Political Science with my colleague from the regarding department are going to present the paper jointly. At first, I want to clarify why this study is for. In this paper, the reasons of identity politics in nomination during parliamentary elections were explored that emphasized on religious minority identity, ethnic minority identity, and transgender identity that is very significant to the study of liberal democracy of Bangladesh. It is also revealed the reactions of voters after participating in elections since 1991 to till date, which is a great attempt for generating knowledge to minimize existing challenges of three categories identities. Identity has become a dominant discourse in the contemporary politics of South Asia in the last 2 decades. As a Muslim majority country, Bangladesh is facing challenges regarding the phrase identity and identity politics during the parliamentary elections since 1991. Despite belonging a multicultural and plural society, it is stumbling to ensure equal rights of different types of identities in pre and post-election period. However, it is a matter of great concern that major political parties are using identity as a tool of vote and to gain power during as they nominate the representatives from minority peoples for election. In this context, The first argument of the paper shed light on the reasons behind the identity politics in nominating candidates in the parliamentary elections after 1991. Second argument explains the ethnic, religious, and transgender people's response in post-election period. Bangladesh, besides, the study has completed through two core questions. Why do major political parties nominate candidates from minority identities in parliamentary elections in Bangladesh? How do minority voters respond in post-election period? This paper has followed qualitative method using purposive sampling. Here, primary data are collected from the key informant interviews, focus group discussions of ethnicity, religious minority, and transgender identity. Among the total 30 sample size, 10 respondents are from ethnic identity, 15 are from religious minority, and 5 respondents are from transgender identity. As the word identity is correlated with citizens' life and experience, is also politically significant in postmodern and post-structuralized sovereign state. Indeed, the present sense of identity evolved the last 40 years through psychoanalyst Erik Erikson's conception of identity crisis. Generally, identity politics refers to a wide range of political activity that is embodied in shared experience of injustice of members in certain social groups. This conception is different from the traditional belief system, group affiliation, or institutional forms of identity politics. It has emerged when social groups face social challenges, economic asymmetry, relative deprivation, greed and grievance, insecurity in society, and disrespect the dignity of that group. Theoretical ground of identity politics. However, the major approaches to understand identity politics in Bangladesh are liberalism, equilibrium, and culture. Liberalism relates to the citizen's right, non-discrimination, and fondness of assimilation. It is clear that legitimacy of the regime of government depends on the free and fair elections, which is the prerequisite of representative democracy of every country like Bangladesh. In other words, voters' participation, their behavioral pattern and performance determines the practice of democracy as well as equilibrium of the citizen. In addition, activists of political parties, including societal groups or politicians, influence the cultural unity and equal opportunity in politics. In this regard, cultural affinity and socio-political equilibrium in Bangladesh are pretended by mobilization of resources along with its proper distribution, populism, accommodative politics, political commitment, consensus among different types of social groups, unity of the above articulated aspects can minimize the identity crisis and identity politics in nomination of in election through associating liberal democracy in Bangladesh. Now I am going to the amendment of the Constitution. Amendment of the Constitution, this is the main cause that started identity crisis in Bangladesh. However, in the first Constitution of independent Bangladesh in 1972, secularism, democracy were prioritized as a state principle. But soon after the assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975, the first military government took the power, and this made the crisis at first. And first military ruler General Jawaharlal Rahman amended the constitution and initiated religious politics in Article 7 of the Constitution. He abolished the Article 12, which is inserted in the Constitution to preserve the communal harmony in Bangladesh. The Fifth Amendment in 6th April 1979 excluded socialism, secularism, and Bengali nationalism from the Constitution. On June 1988, by the 8th Amendment of the Constitution, second military regime led by General Ershad also initiated Islam as the state religion, and which created the division in the minority and minority groups and make it more vulnerable. And thus the secular principle and liberal democratic principle of the Constitution has changed by the military regime and their illegitimate activities in the Constitution. This changing pattern has used religion in politics, introduced new crises in identity, ethnic identity, and intergroup identity in Bangladesh. It also influenced voting culture and nomination pattern in the next general election of Bangladesh. In this way, the process of transforming Bangladesh into an Islamic state from 1972 to 1990 paved the way for the rebirth of identity politics in Bangladesh. Now, I want to invite my colleague, dear Nibedita Roy, to explain major part of the findings of the study.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is Nibedita Roy and representing the second portion, that is findings of our paper. That means challenges of minority identities in the pre and post-election of Bangladesh. If you can observe the PPT, you can see that analyzing the political representation of religious minority and ethnic communities in 5th to 11th parliamentary elections has revealed continuous decrease in number of minority representatives in legislature. As a consequence of identity-based politics, minorities are considered as the vote bank of major political parties. The first parliamentary election of Bangladesh was held on 7th March 1973. There were 14 political parties competing in the election. A total of 1,091 candidates contested in election. Among them, religious and ethnic minorities were a total of 52 people. Army League nominated 13 minorities in election, of whom 2 ethnic minorities were from Chittagong Hill Tracts. A total of 11 minority candidates won the election. In the 1979 elections, a total of 55 religious and ethnic minorities were nominated in 295 constituency. However, in 7th parliamentary election, out of 330 MPs, only 14 belonged to minority communities. On 8th parliament election 1939, candidates contested for 300 seats, where the number of minority representatives was only 2.24%. In 19th parliament, Army League won a grand majority seats, but only 5 minority members became ministers. In this parliament, total minority representative was 3.78%. In the 10th parliamentary election in 2014, this rate dropped to 2.4%. In 2018 election, about 22 candidates were nominated by different parties, and ratio was 2.01% of the total numbers. In 5th Amendment of Constitution in 2011, claimed to bring back the Constitution of 72, but the old image of secularism remains ambiguous, because Article 2A of the Constitution states that the state religion of the Republic is Islam. On the contrary, the state is committed to ensure equal status and equal rights in the practice of Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, and other religions. In contrast to this view, when a country's minority communities are branded as second-class citizens, in a well-conceived constitutional manner, electoral violence will inevitably escalate. Now, what reflection of the voters of religious and ethnic minorities in post-election period as a result of identity politics? In nomination in parliamentary election, religious and ethnic minorities are suffering from fear of a long-term identity crisis. They are also the victim of different types of violence by politically and economically powerful majority of the society. As a consequence, it is causing a mass migration to the neighboring country and abroad. It is continuously reducing the demographic size in Bangladesh. Ethnic minority who live in CHT, that is Chittagong Hill Tracts, are responded different from the religious minorities of plain land. Their main concern is creating recognition of indigenous identity instead of being recognized as ethnic minority. The government of Bangladesh gave recognition of transgender identity. One of the findings about transgender, and in 2006, January 2014, but yet they are considered as a vulnerable community on the basis of their demand of political rights. Election Commission amended the existing law for first time in 2019 that added gender identity of Hijra in the voter registration form. Before 2019, Hijras voted as a male and female identity and had to collect the certificate of identity recognition from the civil surgeon. According to Article 19.4 of Representation of the People Amendment Ordinance 2018, Hijras will be a candidate as third gender or as special party representatives. In the 11th parliamentary election, 8 of them have bought nomination to compete in the reserved seats for women. I like to conclude our paper, and the concluding remarks are: after 50 years of independence, religious minority, ethnic minority identities, and transgender identities are in crisis of political, cultural inclusion to the mainstream people. Constitution of Bangladesh ensures the political rights of the entire citizen to be nominated and elected as member of parliament. But anti-secular policies, laws, or memorandum are responsible for shifting the constitutional norms into a new debate. In a nutshell, identity-based voting reduces the quality of elected politicians. However, secularism, awareness, equality, political recognition of different identities, and consciousness on language-based cultural identity can integrate political clavesses on Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Ma'am. Now I would like to invite our chairperson, Dr. Mahesh Ranjan Debata, Associate Professor. He is in Center for Inner Asian Studies, Schools of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Sir, please come on the stage.
So much. Very good morning to you all. I'm extremely sorry for the late because I was stuck in traffic. But since I'm given the responsibility, huge responsibility, and all the paper presenters will be given only 5 minutes, I'm so sorry. If we get some more time, we'll be having some Q&A session at the end of this session. And let me just invite Dr. Salu D'Souza if she is around. Okay, then Dr. Lopamudra Sengupta. Yeah, please. She will be speaking on community and inclusive development of the rural artisans in West Bengal, a post-globalization scenario. The floor is yours.
Oh, very difficult. I'll try my best, sir. This one for the next slide. No? Good morning, very respected chairperson, distinguished speakers, and very eminent audience. I'm really honored to be here, and I really thank from the bottom of my heart to IIHSG for inviting me here for my lecture presentation. I also congratulate them actually for choosing a theme that is very, very relevant in contemporary social science discourse. As you can see from the paper that I will be presenting, the title of my paper is Culture and Identity. At the outset, let me say that this is a part of my ongoing project, which is designed by Indian Council of Social Science Research, New Delhi. And so I've been working 2 years with this. and I would try to complete within the stipulated time. So, culture and identity, as the name shows, I have tried to develop the paper on the basis of understanding how culture plays a very important role in constituting the part of identity. The paper is on the Katha artisans in Birbhum, West Bengal, a post-globalization perspective. Now, whenever we talk about community and development and community studies, we have seen how culture plays a crucial role in the formation of this identity. How the development and well-being is integrally related with this concept of culture. And as I unwind my slides, you will see how the kind of identity is basically linked with their everyday life. Now, if we look at the various discourses on the rural handicraft, we will see that a great deal of emphasis has been placed on tangible culture, that is on the objects of art and craft, but very few studies are significantly done on the artisans' lives themselves. So it is observed by Kuiry that if communities survive, now why this is important, why I am emphasizing on that is because if these communities survive, then the craftsmanship will also survive. This craftsmanship is actually produced through parampara, which means that the skill is handed from one generation to the other. So the Nakshi Katha is a unique creation in the folk art of Bengal, and the word Naksha means design. Katha is basically a needlework that was made from worn-out textiles and for regular use. One very important thing with the Katha is that it was used for regular use, for emotional sustenance, and not as a commercial, not for commercial purpose. So, the kind of culture and heritage that is associated with this is basically the kind of parampara that people used to have. So it had no commercial value basically at one point of time. The whole objective associated with it was attached to sentiments and emotion or affection, and that's how we get a famous poem by Jasimuddin, who writes about Nakshi Kathar Mat. I think many of us have read the poem, especially it was very famous in Bangladesh. That was the time it was undivided Bengal, and Katha is a prevalent form of needlework in both Bangladesh as well in West Bengal. So it portrayed their lives, the environment around them, and they kept on, stitching Katha as their pastime leisure. I'll be showing certain slides. I won't go into a detail of tracing the historical background. I will straight go to the field studies, which is Nanur in Birbhum. This is a village, Baliguni village in Nanur, which is mostly the hub of Katha Shilpis. Now, if you look at this field studies, we will see that Katha basically symbolizes a way of life. This is a kind of sari where they have done the Katha, the needlework, and this red color is basically associated with tradition which we call the Mangolic. So this is a Katha which symbolizes a way of life, and in this you can see the various animals they have portrayed that comes into their, that has an impact on their daily lives. Now this is a picture from the field study where Katha artisans are, weaving their artifacts, and they are very happy about it. This is what I was saying, that Katha is not just a creation, it is a part of their life, it is a part of their association and engagement and of their daily lives. And when I interviewed them, the artisans told me that they're like our children. The kind of bonding and attachment you have with these objects, they are not mere objects. They are the pieces of cloth are like our children. So it's like how you nurture your child. Now, yeah, I will. The entire handicraft industry received a very big blow in the post-independence period, and these artisans who have a distinctive life, they really faced difficulties, but somehow they had to sustain because they were not considered like agricultural laborers. A sharp of event, that's what I was, reflecting on, the post-globalization scenario. This time is 1990s onwards, actually brought in sharp changes in the handicraft industry, where the UNESCO, especially the United Nations, in 2003, it brought out the Convention for Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage, 2003, and it received a tremendous boost for the upliftment of the community. Yeah. So other stakeholders are also initiating in the growth of this, and especially the NGOs like banglanatok.com, who are actually creating a platform so that the artisan can showcase and they can directly be connected with the people. The state also is proactive in policies. As we can see it, this is the national policy and intervention by NIFT, where they are giving capability building skills to the artisans. So one important, interesting, I conclude is that Katha is a traditional artifact which is now being linked to modernization. They are using Katha on modern artifacts, and that is how tradition and modernity have developed in post-independent period, especially in the time of globalization, and the recognition at a worldwide, the global level. This is a photo where they are receiving their awards at a function globally. So this global reach has been possible, and they are now considered more as artisans, more as shilpis, rather than they are mere objects of handicrafts. So that is what they had longed for, that they are not just community members, they are a community of shilpis who deserved recognition. And at a global level, this has been possible for the state and many of the stakeholders who are interacting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
Now, we would like to present a token of appreciation to all the estimate members. I would like to call upon Dr. Nandini Basist, ma'am, to do the honor. Ma'am, please come on the stage.
After a long time I am seeing.
Now, Dr. Mahesh Ranjan Debata. Ma'am, please honor him.
Thank you for coming.
Dr. Sumit Kumar.
Sumit sir.
Now next is Dr. Nibedita Roy. Sequentially, we have Sharif Noorjahan, ma'am. After that, we have Dr. Mohan Singh Sagu. Sorry. Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, please.
The next speaker will be Sumit Mukherjee. Okay, we move to Dr. Laxmiram Gope.
At the outset, I express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to the organizer and all the dignitary of the dais and on the dais. Myself, Dr. Laxmiram Gope, working as an assistant professor, Department of Education, Sidho-Kanho-Birsha University, Purulia, West Bengal. Here, today I would like to present the documentation of indigenous knowledge for crisis management among the tribes of West Bengal. As we know, the indigenous come from the word indigena, means which is inherent in a particular land or particular regions. This knowledge is small. This knowledge is community-centered. This knowledge is traditional. This knowledge is transformed from one generation to next generation by various means, such as the doing of a content, observing, perceiving situation as a whole, and trial and error method also. Here, there are two ways of developmental process. One is model developmental process. Model developmental scientists think that the development only takes place in the laboratory situation or sophisticated way. But in traditional science or traditional knowledge, believe that the development begins with a grassroots, with a land, with a particular situation. This situational knowledge reflected within the various means of community practices, such as indigenous agriculture, indigenous animal husbandry, indigenous resource management, forest resource management, land management, and there are child rearing practice among the community also. Here, for the conducting of this study, researcher used the ethnographical approach. For the data collection, researcher observing the situation as a whole and naturalistic inquiry, field note and unstructured interview done. In some cases, researcher conduct the case study method for the collecting of the very information data for the documentation of indigenous practices, indigenous knowledge. Here, researcher findings, these are the indigenous practices, indigenous knowledge for the crisis management. Indigenous land management technique. Tribal community manage the land, particularly agriculture, through the unique management tactics, that is their land management technique. Indigenous healthcare. Tribal community member manage their health issue and concern through the indigenous healthcare technique. In this regards, the indigenous community member prefer faith and traditional healer who treat the people with the sensitive and experience and minimum cost. Indigenous knowledge is viable, affordable, and available. Therefore, this knowledge also consider the poor people knowledge, who unable to afford the modern facility, modern way of life in a very remote area, hilly place. At this situation, indigenous knowledge have played at a very crucial as an alternative means or alternative way of living and looking to the world also. Therefore, this knowledge also reflected within the indigenous housing, indigenous animal husbandry, indigenous child rearing practice, indigenous forest resource management, indigenous ritualistic practice and indigenous art, craft, indigenous fishing, indigenous horticulture, indigenous work, indigenous design, indigenous seed preserving. Tribal peoples preserve the seed in a very tremendous way. Through the dhaki, they preserve the seed from the more than 2 or 3 years. So this unique type of knowledge also need to document for the manage the crisis in changing and challenging scenario. Because in this era, 21st century is known as the changing and challenging. Each and every knowledge have its potentiality. So it is no need to develop the negligence toward the indigenous people, indigenous worldview, indigenous knowledge system. Therefore, we need to cultivate, we need to preserve this knowledge, such as indigenous family management practice. In a Santal community members, or Santal community, it is reflected that they manage their family life with a maji or jogmaji. They have the social stratification. Even they run their life with the minimum cost, and their community sentiment, community values really celebrate the diversity of learning. No need to standardize. We must celebrate the diversity of learning for the modern world, for the new world order need of this kind of knowledge. Cottage industry, indigenous food processing, indigenous water resource management, indigenous musical instrument, indigenous relationship making and exchanging, indigenous relationship making and adjusting, indigenous economy still today believe on the barter system, means the exchanging, goods exchanging. In Purulia, there are various heart system. There people coming together and celebrating the barter system. They exchange the goods with the various.
1 minute.
Yes, sir. 1 minute. Okay, thank you, sir. At the conclusion, everything on the earth has a purpose. Every disease has a herb to cure it, and every person has a mission to fulfill it. This is the Indian theory of existence. Another Indian theory, when only last tree has died and last river has been poisoned and last fish has been cut, we will realize that we cannot eat money, Indian proverb. So therefore, from this beginning, from this study, we can conclude that the tribal community members, particularly the Santal, worship the nature as a Marangmuru and the devote tree, land, river as a god, and this way they sustain themselves with the life of this earth. The forest not merely the resource for them, but life itself. Thank you to all, and namaskar.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Gope, and it's a fascinating presentation. I would invite the next presenter, Dr. Sumana Das. She is an assistant professor, B. Bura College, and she will be speaking on identity.
No, I don't know. Good morning, respected dignitaries on the dais and my fellow presenters. My topic for presentation is the identity politics and the crisis of displacement of population in Western Assam. I have chosen this place because Assam is always it's a middle part of any kind of identity politics. As we know that Northeast India comprises of 7 states, and Sikkim is also included there. And all the states in Northeast India, Assam, Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh have gone through various identity politics or identity crisis. And the tribal groups which are included in this politics are Boros, Santals, Nagas, Kukis, Rihangs, Paites, Mar, Chakmas, and other identity groups. Now, as we know that from British period, the people of different cultural as well as ethnic minorities in different parts of northeastern India, they demanded for separate statehood. So it started during the British period. By 1962, the statehood is given to Nagaland. In 1972, Meghalaya got this statehoodship, then Tripura, Manipur, and in 1975, Mizoram got the statehood. So the people of Western Assam, which was comprised of various identity groups, they also started demanding their separate statehood or separate state. And amongst them was the most important tribal group was the Boro people. And this Boro people, they wanted to have their separate homeland. There was also certain historical background because Boro people, they shared their land with Assamese people up to 1960. But when this Bhasha movement started in Assam, and Assamese became the majority language, and in all the in all the offices, Assamese started to be recognized as an official language. Then they had the feeling of alienation, and they wanted to have their own land in spite of the fact that they identified themselves as a member of this Assamese community. So from 1960 onwards, actually they started their movement of having separate state, and this is known as the Boro movement. So their immediate solution was to have different outfit where they terrorized the people, where they started taking various their different advantages on the various minority people. And the minorities were the Santhal people who migrated in that part of Western Assam by the Britishers, because they came in that part, or they were brought by the Britishers as a tea garden workers. So they were the immediate sufferers on whom the Boro people, they started various atrocities. And then onwards, this kind of conflict started among the Boros and the Santhal people. And in this process, from 1993 onwards, 3 lakhs people have been displaced. And this is how the people could not see this kind of displacement, and that's how the Santhal as well as Boro people are also being displaced. But Santhal people are the majorities among the displacees, and this problem is not been identified so far by the national government as well as even the national government, even the state government. Okay, and that's how these people are still staying in different so-called refugee camps. Actually, these are not refugee camps because they are the internally displaced people. They neither come under the refugee law or neither they are being access to any international displacement laws. So that's how these people are alienated from their various facilities which are to be provided as a displaced population. So my question is, or my area of working is, how to make the national as well as state government as well as to attract the attention of the international society to save these people or to look into the problem of this internally displaced population. I think, sir, I'm on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again, and I wish I could hear a little more from you, but that is on the sidelines again. The next presentation is Bundi Juhi Sai Siaram. Okay. And then Basit Javed Qureshi. Okay. And then there is Swati Tyagi. Yeah. And then Priya Dhingra. So, please.
Good morning all. I am a research scholar from Department of Education, Bhagat Phul Singh, Mahila Vishwavidyalaya. I would like to thanks to the organizing team as well as all the dignitaries to provide me an opportunity to present my views. The title of my presentation is the Data Privacy Challenges in Digital Education System. This paper examined the privacy issues in digital education, and this study reveals the issues with respect to the privacy laws such as students' grade as well as the private information under the FERPA, as well as the right of students to protect their privacy when they are on the publicly accessible sites. Now, this study also creates the implication of data privacy laws as well as the challenges in online learning, and this study indicates the finding that the teachers view digital privacy from the perspective of culture, from the perspective of curricular as the classroom goal, and do not teach the lesson on privacy and security in digital technology to the students. Now, what are the various data privacy challenges in digital education systems? This challenges refers to the issues and concern related to the protection of personal and sensitive information to students, educators, and educational institution in the context of technology-enhanced learning. And these challenges encompasses various issues like data breaches, then lack of awarenesses, inadequate security measure, third-party services, data collection and profiling, consent and parental rights, legal and regulatory compliances like FERPA, and then ethical consideration, data ownership, and while addressing these data privacy challenges in digital education system, it requires a multifaceted approach, including the implementation of a strong cyber security measure, transparent data practices, clear privacy policies, and ongoing education and awareness program for all stakeholders involved in education. Now this graph shows the maximum increase of the data breaches in the year 2021, and it is still prevailing. And another graph shows that the education sector include the data breaches at the maximum high peak of around 25%. And it's a serious matter of concern. Now, what are the sources of the data breaches? Are the measure it's a malicious as well as the system fault, or as well as the human error creates the data breaches. Now, to gain deeper insight into the data privacy challenges in digital education, we turn into the real world example and the best practices. Like the Estonian model, Estonian has successfully implemented the blockchain technology to secure the educational data, providing students and as well as the educators with control over their data while enabling data analytics, and it will retain the 100% data privacy. Another case study of the data breaches in US schools are the serious concern, as they are lead to far-reaching consequences. School must prioritize data security compliance with relevant regulation and the adoption of proactive measure to prevent and respond to breaches effectively. Now, what are the various best practices to resolve these kind of problems? For preventing the data breaches in educational institutions, some remedies or recommendations are given, like data inscriptions, access control, regular security audits, employee training and awareness program from time to time, then patch management, then third-party vendor assessment, data retention and the deletion, as well as the multi-factor authentication. So these best practices, when implemented effectively, can significantly enhance the data security in educational institution and reduce the risk of data breaches. And combining these practices with a proactive and vigilant approach to cyber security can help safeguard sensitive students and staff information. Now I am concluding my statement that as digital revolution has created a new world of responsibility as well as the possibility for the educator and the learner, and this transformation also comes with a responsibility for protecting the privacy and the data of all who are involved. So it is important, as we continue to offer both challenges and opportunities, and we may stay vigilant and proactive and dedicated to data privacy principles, and we have the power to transform the digital education into the ethical, secure and fair learning environment, and we can protect the data privacy and ensure that digital benefits are available to all while protecting the individual rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Swati.
Good morning to one and all present over here, and I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. My topic for today is Tibetan identity in geopolitical context, India-China relations and beyond. Here I am going to talk Tibetan identity in context of regional identity. For introduction, Tibetan identity is vital in contemporary world politics, affecting societal and political functioning. It significantly influences India-China relations, impacting regional stability and global power dynamics. Transcending geographical borders, impacts China's security dynamics and India's foreign policies. The essence of Tibetan identity Anchored in Tibetan Buddhism, a distinct language and rich cultural history, transcends geographical limits with far reaching ramifications for regional stability and the global balance of power. The historical context of Tibet. Tibet's history is complex, spanning thousands of years and involving periods of independence and foreign influence. Here you can see the photo of the exodus during the 1950s. Tibet's rich tapestry includes the influence of Buddhism, political control by various dynasties, and historical agreements impacting its autonomy. India's delicate balance. India's instance of Tibetan identity is a complex mix of commitment, regional goals, and diplomatic challenges. India faces a delicate balance in hosting the Dalai Lama and Tibetan refugees while pursuing its regional objectives. Tibetan settlements in India. Tibetan refugees have settled in various regions of India, creating strategic and cultural significance in border areas. The presence of Tibetan settlements in India holds historical and geographical importance, particularly in regions with border disputes. Tibetan settlements in India, here the map shows all the Tibetan settlements present in India, while the important examples are Bomdila, Ladakh, Dhamshala. Going on to the discussions, Tibetan identity in the contemporary world. Preservation of culture and heritage symbolizes Tibetan identity's relevance in the contemporary world despite its destruction. Tibetan spiritual centers in India play a crucial role in keeping the Tibetan issue alive in international discourse and impacting India-China relations. Importance of Tibetan identity in the geopolitics. Tibetan people have a symbiotic connection with India and have played a role in protecting Himalayan frontiers. The Tibetan people have become an asset in India's protection of its Himalayan frontiers, mainly through their involvement in Indian security, like the Special Frontier Force. Acts as a strategic leverage and a strategic diversion for India against China. Here, Tibetan identity helps India in many strategic leverages and many strategic diversions. Tibetan refugees and their amalgamation in India. Formed by Tibetan exiles in India, Tibetan settlements act as a location for protecting and nurturing Tibetan culture in India, and tourism acts as a combining force between Tibetan people and others. Spiritual centers play a role in building people-to-people contact. Tibetan identity and autonomy. Distinct Tibetan idea of Tibet is three judicial provinces: Yusang, Amdo, and Kham, here which is shown on the map, but the basic idea which the world portrays Tibet is the second map which is being shown, where Kham and Amdo is not represented. Border politics and infrastructure. India and China are investing in border infrastructure, including settlements, roads, and other amenities in disputed areas. Border villages and monasteries symbolize Tibetan identity and influence border politics and regional dynamics. India's perception of Tibetan identity. India emotionally bonded with the Tibetans due to historical, cultural, and religious links. The Indian government aims to integrate border regions through cultural co-option. Tibetan exile and India's soft power. Tibetan exile communities in India, including the presence of Dalai Lama, contributes to India's soft power and influence international discourse. The support given to Tibetan government in exile strengthens India's position and influence in the broader context of India-China relations. While the Chinese view of Tibet, China views itself as liberator of Tibetans, and the Chinese government's perspective is on economic growth and investment in Tibet. Tibet acts as a resource bed for the Chinese, whether it is fresh water or minerals like boron, lithium, copper, chromium, etc. Emphasis on economic growth and consumption since the commencement of Open Up the West program in 2000. Chinese recruitment of Tibetans. China has started recruiting Tibetans in their army after the LAC attack in 2020. This recruitment is part of their long-term deployment plans in high-altitude areas. Global implications. Tibetan identity's relevance impacts regional stability and global balance of power. Tibetan identity provides a prism to understand power dynamics, security, and global influence in Asia. Conclusions. The Tibetan identity, deeply rooted in a rich cultural and spiritual heritage, significantly influences the power dynamics between China and India. For China, Tibet holds crucial importance in its pursuit of global hegemony and regional strategic calculations, while India faces the complex challenge of managing its commitment to Tibetan refugees while maintaining cordial relations with China and exercising regional influences. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. And just one thing I want to tell you that in that map, the last map you showed here, that the region of India, which is Saxcom Valley, which was ceded to China in 1962, October 1962 by Pakistan. It's not mentioned there. Just for a correction.
Okay,
We can have more discussion during the time.
sure.
I've been working on that area. I've learned from you as well. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sir, actually, it's my first year of PhD and I have done my master's from JNU only.
Wonderful. All the best.
Okay. We'll see you, sir. Thank you.
And next present.
A very good morning to all of you. I'm Rajita. I'm pursuing my PhD at the Department of Political Science, University of Kerala. And I'm presenting a paper on the securitization of mobility, migration, and global justice in the context of GCC countries. My PhD topic is also on Gulf migration. And the relevance of the topic lies in the fact that from Kerala, we have 1.5 million migrant laborers working in the GCC countries. And GCC countries comprises of 6 Gulf states. And in 1970s, there was this discovery of oil in the Gulf states, and which demanded cheap expatriate labor, international labor force from across the world. So India responded to the situation, and we have more than 12.5 million laborers working in the Gulf states. And in the Gulf states, they have 29 million labor forces present, and which is the largest in the world. Now, the question of security, that is the securitization of mobility, is the politicization of the politicization of mobility, in which they perceive a problem as a threat and they frame policies on behalf of that. So in this particular instance, the migrant rights has always been considered as a paradox, the impasse of migrant rights in Hannah Arendt's words, because the security of the migrant, or the human security of the migrant, is contrasted against the national security of the state. So in that case, the human security or the rights of the migrants are severely compromised. So in this particular case of GCC countries, they have implemented a set of policy measures, for example, passports, and then citizenship rights are denied to the laborers, and they are treated as only contract laborers working for a particular period of time, like for a contract. And they have introduced this kafala system, or the sponsorship system, in which the migrant laborer is tied to the kafala, or the sponsor, who is a native, and they are like, even if they want to enter the country, the Gulf state, or want to leave the country, they want to leave a job, they have to take the written permission of the kafala or the sponsor, and which severely restricted the mobility of the migrant, and it severely compromised the human rights of the migrants, the human rights of the people. So why they have implemented this policy? Because these systems, these sponsorship systems, they serve the purpose of the employer and not the people. So we're talking about the human rights of 29 million people who are living and working in the GCC countries. So this securitization of mobility, this politicization of mobility, and framing migrants as a threat, it severely compromises the human rights of the people. So now it leads to the impasse of migrant rights, and it leads to, and we need a global justice regime, a legal framework which is inclusive and which safeguards the human rights of the people. So that is my topic all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
On military provider firms such as Executive Outcomes Sandline and focuses on tactical aspects and engage in combat operations. Type 2 involves military consulting firms offering advisory and training services contributing to strategic enhancements, whereas Type 3 comprises of firms that provide supplementary services.
Okay, so let's move on to economic trends and the challenges that they pose with respect to mercenarism. Now, the existence of these firms thrive and increase when there is more conflict and war, which are the driving market forces. Here is the Exhibit A that we are providing with that graph. So we see that there's an increase from 1945 with respect to the Sierra Leone and Angola Civil War, which was brought to an end by executive outcomes. Similarly, the spike in 1965 onwards, when the Vietnam War began, the Iraq War in 2003 and the Afghan War in 2001 lead to a rise in PMSEs from 38 in 2001 to 79. During this period, we also observed that the American military was heavily supported by these PMSEs in their abroad military endeavors, to the extent that they were double the strength of the military that was deployed. Now, there's also a decline of these conflicts that we can see when we are observing, there's a shrinkage in figure 2 that is being displayed, is that PMSEs were either done through, the shrinkage was either done through termination, acquisition or mergers. The US and the UK, which combined account for the termination, acquisition or merger of over 55% of PMSEs that accounted for the majority of the bloom in 2000s. Now, there are three main challenges that are posed. The first one is, in order to stay competitive and relevant, they must convince the stakeholders, that is, government and the client base, that the threats these PMSEs specialize in tackling are the most critical, real, and the significant ones. Secondly, to bolster the credibility, PMSEs often bring in technical experts and take on the roles as lobbyists, security advisors, and influencers of public opinion. The market itself promotes the process of securitization of various issues. PMSEs market the services by highlighting numerous threats that the clients must safeguard against. Now, the third one is that the factor of globalization brings in challenge of client control, which is very crucial. There's a consensus that sales to illegitimate clients should be prohibited. However, the nature of the market for force makes it challenging to clearly distinguish between legitimate and illegitimate clients. Now, there already exist quite a few international frameworks to guide these PMSEs, but none that truly hold them accountable, as we've previously established. Some of these are Montaru's document, the International Code of Conduct, UNDC, the Draft Convention, the UN Working Group of Mercenaries, as well as the OEWG, which is the Open-Ended Intergovernmental Working Group. Now, so these, with us concluding our research, was that we've come up with a few solutions. That is, we establish a global framework and a treaty that outlines rules and regulations. Next, we create a certification and licensing systems for said PMSEs. Then, we also establish clear jurisdiction so that there is no human rights violations that take place, as well as there is rigorous monitoring of arms provision to these PMSEs and fostering transparency within the arms trade. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Atri. She is speaking on gender and identity-based violence.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Atri Poddar. I'm from St. Joseph's University, Bangalore. And my paper was on Manipur and Africa. It was a comparative study between two very different regions of the world, but how they have very similar conflict situations and how their women are facing very similar war crimes that are being committed against them. Okay. In my research, I explored the connections between gender security and intersectionality using real-life examples from Manipur, India, and instances of female genital mutilation in Africa. Through digging into documents and qualitative data, I aimed to unravel the complexity of these relationships. But it's not just about understanding. My paper aimed to show how gender issues are deeply woven into global decision-making policies impacting international security strategies. Practical ideas and strategies are not merely being shed light on, rather, they are being provided to assist policymakers, guide researchers, and shape the practices of those working in security. To give a background, the Indian border state of Manipur has been rocked by ethnic violence since May this year. Mobs have burned down villages, forcing over 60,000 people to move out of their homes. Over 130 people have lost their lives in the clashes between the majority Meiteis and the Kukis. And a recent video of a mob sexually assaulting 2 women has brought the crisis in Manipur under the global spotlight. And female genital mutilation, or as they've abbreviated it, FGM, is a social phenomenon that is deeply rooted in African and Middle Eastern socio-cultural religious facets. It covers a sequence of procedures carried out on the genitals of females of different ages, including total or partial removal of the female external genitalia or other injuries to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. FGM is unequivocally a cankerworm that has eaten the freedom and well-being of African and Middle Eastern women, making them choiceless victims. Therefore, it is quite pertinent for governments and community leaders to provide medical support to the victims and fight the prevalence of FGM in their jurisdictions. My study sheds light on the close connections between female genital mutilation in Africa and gender-based violence in Manipur. The findings highlight the widespread use of violence against women as a means of oppression and control, highlighting the intricate interactions between many identities as seen through an intersectional lens. The Manipur case study exposes the intentional use of sexual assault against women, especially those of indigenous and minority communities, as a means of fostering fear and separation in conflict areas. And FGM in Africa and Middle East highlights the cultural aspects of this damaging practice, emphasizing its pervasiveness and the effect on girls' autonomy within certain groups. These qualitative findings highlight the urgent need for intersectional, inclusive approaches to address the complex issues of gender-based violence on a worldwide scale. So these are very different conflicts in 2 different parts of the world, but they're very similar. Because in both the conflict situations and many others, we see that women become a commodity that people exploit. This happens also in Bosnia and Serbia, where Serbian men rape Bosnian women to boost Serbian population. So so there are so many examples of the same thing. So the research revealed the devastating impact of gender-based violence in Manipur, strategically used to oppress indigenous women. Similarly, in Africa and Middle East, cultural and economic factors perpetuate harmful practices like FGM. To address these issues, global governance, advocacy, targeted legislation, and resource allocation for local initiatives are crucial. This comprehensive approach acknowledges the nuanced nature of gender-based violence, demanding collaborative efforts at national and international levels. Through coordinated action, we can create effective strategies, condemning perpetrators, supporting communities, and fostering sustainable change in the face of those interconnected challenges. To conclude, recognizing these links between gender-based violence in Manipur, India, and FGM in parts of Africa and Middle East, it underscores the inadequacy of a singular one-size-fits-all approach. The complexity of these issues emphasizes the need for adopting an intersectional lens. Effectively combating gender-based violence demands urgent global collaboration, transcending geographical and cultural boundaries. this collaborative effort must challenge existing power systems that perpetuate injustice. Beyond addressing the manifestations, it is crucial to confront the core causes. In these situations, women often become commodities exploited by others. Striving for a future free from gender-based violence requires inclusive strategies, acknowledging and addressing the diverse experiences of those affected. Sustained international intersectional efforts are essential to create a world where justice and equality prevail. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Thank you to the dais and the audience and every single participant here. So before I begin, we all know that we use our senses to acknowledge one another in this forum, anywhere else. We use our senses to help understand each other. For example, using of understanding facial expression on or non-verbal cues to know if someone is angry, frustrated, mad, or sad, or even bored. Yes, so for my study, I majorly focus on three aspects like emotion, color, and congenital blind individuals. Now, congenital blind individuals are those who might have had a visual impairment when they were young, but due to untreated conditions or other medical reasons, they would have lost sight over the time of their development and growth. Now, most of the participants that I encountered through my study belonged to the northeastern part of India who had settled in Bangalore for a very long time due to the inclusive society that the state provided. And as we know in color psychology, how different colors are used to evoke emotions. This is a very basic concept that is used in advertisements all over the world. So here are a few of the studies that I have mentioned that focus on congenital blind individuals, that focus on their ability to assess and identify emotions or vice versa. Now, most of the studies focused on enhancement of one particular sense over the loss of another, that is vision. The studies found that lot of negative valence, that is anger, aggression, or disgust, are associated with colors like red, black, and grey. The hypothesis for my study assesses how accurate these individuals assess an auditory stimulus that is provided to them by me. And the objective of the study is to associate emotions to color. This diagram basically shows the overview of the whole process that I went through. I had a controlled group along with an experimental group of congenital blind individuals. They went through a screening process of having inclusion and exclusion criteria, of which they were filtered down to 12 participants in each, sighted and congenital blind individuals. The first phase of the experiment was qualitative, assessing their accuracy in identifying the audio files presented to them. Then the second part of the study was qualitative, more focusing on an interview schedule, semi-structured interview schedule, to help understand as to how are they able to answer whatever they had identified. The results were very astonishing for me, as people who might have lost sight over the period of time were able to recollect their memories, recollect their past experiences, to notice that how a particular emotion can evoke color as well. So on presenting audio files, it was evident that they were able to identify emotions like aggression and happiness much easily as compared to people with sight. but they have few difficulty in differentiating between sadness and fear. Now, for the latter part of the study, with qualitative analysis of making themes across their interview, I could find that most of the participants had past experiences, their memories, their shared experience throughout their life affect their response to what color they wanted to associate to that particular emotion at that point of time. And along with memories, their ability to notice a variety of voice modulation and ability to grasp the pitch of the voice had also played a major role in helping them identify as to what audiophile noticed which emotion. Now, as for the conclusion, this study not only aims to prove my hypothesis or an objective, but also to help give a recognition to individuals who might have had lost sight over their development years, and include them as well and provide a recognition to them as well through different research studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And the next is Ujjwal Kumar Johnson. Ujjwal Kumar is from Banaras Hindu University, and his topic is security, identity, and global hegemony.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Ujjwal Kumar Johnson from Banaras Hindu University. And my topic is the security, identity, and global hegemony on the social media impact on individually. It is said that social media is an online platform where people use to build their social relationship on the social networking, sharing common interest based on the personal and career interest activities, background on the real life connections. And today, the billions of people across the global world is on this site. But the one condition is here about how the people of connecting has make the violence. And one of the great research scholar is John Galton. Is the research peace. John Galton was the peace researcher and the socialist. He said he divided the violence in three different parts of in individually personal life, that is the direct violence and the structural violence and the culture and the symbolic violence. This is the three triangles that is the triangle peace has created, and this is the one of the we can say now this social media has become the making the violence. In India, one of the keys has came in 2000. It is one of the case has came in India as the single case in 2015 when one of the leader of Shiv Sena has passed away, Bal Thackeray. He commented, Sehgal has commented on something on that, and the threat was given by that girl for the individually person. From that time only the Supreme Court on 2015, the Supreme Court had make one changes and make the individual impact that the challenge selection of the 16.6A, section 66A and the technological act was created, and it was happening.
Silence, please. Excuse me. Maintain silence. Yeah, please.
Oh, thank you, sir. And they provide the process of grossing of powers, the maintain connection 66A. And this is one of the biggest today is from everyone scope. From this is my research from the what is the main purpose of my for this research is to inform the gathering of social media and the relation with the violence. Gathering information from the primary source, which is the can be used in the formative policy acts order to have the effective regulatory system in addressing violence caused by the use of social media. Thus, this is a research will clarity and understanding about the social media and the relationship with the violence. Okay, some of the question that I have and some of the survey I have done by the 72% from my colleague, my hostel where I was there in Banaras in the university. 72% I sent that Google form and said that what question about the how many hours do you spend on the social media, what is the main purpose of your using the social media. These are the questions I have sent them. One of the more cases has came to in 2016. 2016 in Philippines, one girl he was in a relationship with his partner, and that was he broke when she was broken out. He has used she used one social media of like Tanger and the one of the like social media he only used. In that the Philippines government he used Philippine government when that girl has sent filed the cases against him only. He said that Philippine government had sent 116 pages to him saying about that your individually person what you had sharing and the emotion what you had written on the social media is the spreading all over the world. This was the biggest effect of the individually person. So today we can say that the security identity is in global hegemony is individually it is a more effective. Here everyone is using the smartphone, but whether we are that safe, that is the one person. Recently, even our member of parliament, recently the message has given by the iPhone about what is even the member of parliament is the message is given. Then what about us? What about our individually data is where is going? So this is making one of type of the violence. Of course, we are need the peace. We are need the peace, but the student who are in want to be in alone, he want to use the social media. So this is the main objective of the people of individually person. So this is my research paper, and thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. The next speaker will be Shambhavi Rai.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here. I'm Shambhavi Rai, and I'm from Basanta College from Women Rajghat, affiliated to the Privileges of Banaras in the university. I think I'm the only one amongst everyone who is from this political science background who is going to present something related to English literature, because I'm from English literature background. Identity, being an essential part of an individual, should not be tampered with, but tampering with and tarnishing one's identity becomes easy when one is still looking for it themselves. This presentation will talk about the difficulties of looking for one's identity by using two universally acclaimed literary works as examples. The toxicity of patriarchy will be talked about through Shashi Deshpande's That Long Silence. In this novel, Jaya, the main protagonist, goes through a roller coaster ride of emotions. Jaya, born in a middle-class family, is clever, curious, bright, and outspoken, all qualities that are considered unladylike by mainstream society. She is told to be submissive and not to speak her mind if she doesn't agree with her husband, because a husband is like a tree that will protect her and get her respect in society. A series of events take place which decide the fate of Jaya. Through these events, she learns about herself. This decide the fate of Jaya, and through these events, the story is about how she loses her voice but eventually finds it, thereby finding her identity. The other story is Untouchable by Mulkraj Anand. As the story, That Long Silence, talks of searching for one's identity in the light of gender-based society, the story Untouchable talks of searching for identity or creating one under the rigid caste system of India before independence. Bhaka, the main protagonist of the story, an 18-year-old boy who is a sweeper, struggles with fitting in with the outside world. The story revolves around one day of Bhaka's life. We'll start with That Long Silence. Even though it circles the domestic aspect of life, a story based on an upwardly mobile urban Indian middle-class household, it covers wide-ranging dimensions on not just feminism or domestic happiness, but also self-revelation and its subjectivity. The novel talks about the difficulties that the lead protagonist, Jaya, must face to search for meaning in a basically monotonous life, to learn and unlearn the norms of toxic patriarchal system, and to break free to search for her identity. Even though it is a domestic novel, this story shows a very prominent practice that takes place not only in India, but in various places over the globe, raising the girl child and conditioning her into believing that she has a lot of limitations and shortcomings and keeping her from realizing her full potential. Grooming her in such a way that she always remains a docile and obedient creature. She shouldn't be loud or forceful with her ways. She shouldn't have a voice of her own because her husband's opinion is her opinion. During various events in the novel, we see women in different households suffering under the similar banner of being a good wife. It is truly saddening to see Jaya, a father-supported child, an ambitious and opinionated strong girl, turned into a voiceless and docile puppet. Jaya says, "And when I had been praised for anything, I'd been so ridiculously pleased. I almost wag my tail like a dog that's been patted by its master." The transformation of Jaya into Suhasini and Sita becomes her make-believe reality because Mohan never accepts her or knows her as Jaya, meaning victorious, but as Suhasini, which means soft, smiling, placid, motherly woman. When Jaya and Mohan get into a verbal battle and Jaya says that Suhasini is dead, Mohan is taken aback. For the first time, he sees a glimpse of the real Jaya with a voice. Mohan beseeches her to be soft-spoken because there's a possibility that he sees Jaya's real personality as a threat to his own male ego, because she won't cater to his needs anymore. Jaya says Suhasini was dead. Yes, that was it. She was the one Mohan was mourning. No, the fact that I'd finally done it. I'd killed her. At this point, Jaya again reconciles with her true self. The other story is Untouchable by Mulkraj Anand. Mulkraj Anand's Untouchable, published on 1st January 1935, is a story set in a fictional Indian town named Bulasha, revolving around the life of an 18-year-old Dalit boy named Bhaka. Mulkraj Anand was a writer belonging to the upper caste, and what inspired him to write about Dalits was an incident from his childhood days. Someone spread a rumor that his aunt was seen sharing a meal with a Muslim woman who was considered untouchable in those times. Shaken by this false accusation, his aunt committed suicide. This left a scar on Mulkraj Anand's memory and drove him to write about Dalits and bring some reform. The story was written and published in India before it got its independence. Therefore, it has a portrayal of the orthodox and regressive society of that time. It shows the inhuman ways in which Dalits were treated. In conclusion, I'd like to say that both novels are used as an example of the struggles of searching for one's identity in different scenarios. In That Long Silence, Jaya is seen learning and unlearning the toxic teachings of society, the restrictive and orthodox ways that stop women from realizing their true potential by making them believe that they don't have any in the first place. Jaya fights the gender roles imposed upon her forcefully and vows never to keep the silence again. She comes out as a strong character trying to break free of the stereotypical rules and standards set by the male-dominated society, becoming Jaya, victorious in the true sense. In the novel Untouchable, even though Bhaka is deprived of many things, he still manages to maintain a good character. Being a boy of merely 18 years, he shows maturity beyond his age. Throughout the story, it is observed that he is the kind of person who thinks about the outcome of something before going for it, like taking revenge on Kalinath. After getting to know the good news about the flushing toilet in India, he is smart enough to acknowledge that this will be a step towards eradicating untouchability. And he also understands that it cannot be eradicated immediately in one go, but is something that will take time. But he is optimistic and willing to wait. He is so thoughtful that he doesn't let the quarrel with his father stop him from sharing his news with his family. Untouchable is a tale of how this 18-year-old boy finds himself and tries to create himself amidst the shackles of the rigid caste system. Thank you so much.
I am Bijayatri from University of Kolkata. So my paper is deconstructing the voice of the survivors of child sex trafficking in West Bengal. Now here, more than presenting a paper, I'm here to tell some of the stories which we have found by doing the field study in Goshaba region and in the Canning region of the Sundarbans in West Bengal. Now, what do we mean by the term trafficking? If we are seeing, if we are engaging ourselves in by the Article 3 of the UN Convention, then the transportation and everything includes trafficking. And the human trafficking basically engages three parts. Number one, the trafficking might be due to the bonded labor. Number two, it might be child sexual exploitation. And number three, the organ trafficking. So all these three are included in one portion, that is human trafficking. But in my paper, I will only concentrate on the child sex trafficking in West Bengal. Now, while doing the field study, we were concentrating on two regions in South Chobbish Pargona of West Bengal. One is Canning region, another one is Goshaba region. Now, these two regions, if we are following the news daily, then what we can see, being the part in Sundarban, the regions are mostly engaged or affected by the hardships of the people. The economic condition of the people are not so good over there, and as a result, they're always in a want of money. So what happens when a girl child, even though we in West Bengal we have several schemes, and for the central government also we have a lot of schemes for the girl child, if they're pursuing higher education, we have single girl child scholarships, we have Beti Bachao Beti Padhao schemes. In West Bengal also we have Konyasri, and there are other appeasement policies by the government as well. For example, Pothosri, Shobut Shati, which are providing the aids or the elements to these poverty-stricken students or the poverty-stricken areas. Even though they're getting that, in those areas, if you're a girl child, you are born with typical difficulties. If you're a girl child, you need to face certain hardships which cannot be faced. It is not a gender based. Even if you're a boy, then there is it will be a problem of organ trafficking as well in those areas. Just by doing the field study in these two areas, we had done this field study through the help of two NGOs. One is the Durbar, another one is a local NGO of Canning region only. What we have found that more than 250 girls and boys were trafficked in just 3 months. Now that is a very problematic thing, and we don't know where they were trafficked or anything like that. The survivors or the victims which we actually encountered, or we had done our interview, we found out that most of them were trafficked to either Pune or to Mumbai. Now, when they're trafficked, they have been trafficked. There had been traffickers who had been going through in the Canning cinema hall. If you hear this story, I'm pretty sure no one will take popcorn or cold drinks while watching a movie, because they used to spike those cold drinks and popcorns. They used to target the girls, especially the girls from the age of 9 to 15, because there's a concept of high-priced virginity in this commercial sexual exploitation industry. So the people used to get tracked between the girls were from like 9 to 16. This was the age range for those girls. Now, when they were going for the movie with their friends only, they were targeted, and the drinks of them used to get spiked. The popcorn which they used to eat, they used to get spiked and everything. And after that, they did not have any kind of senses. And later they found themselves in the brothel of either in Pune or in Mumbai. Actually, we got only these two names, these two areas. So basically what we have concluded that the people from these two regions used to get trafficked, or the traffickers from these two regions used to get trafficked, used to traffic the people to these two regions only, Pune and in Mumbai. Now they used to brought to the brothel, and there were two systems. One is the chokri system, another is the andhi system. Now what is the chokri system? In the chokri system, the girls were used to be used as a sex toy. They were exploited at the age of that particular period is between like 14 to 22. After that, they were sent to some other brothel, and it is known as Adhi system, and whatever. And in this chokri system, they used to like gather more than 15,000 to 25,000 per day. But these money were not received by them. They used to be given to that so-called mashi of that particular region, right? Now, one of the stories is very interesting because a woman who was trafficked by one of his brother-in-law. His husband was sick. Her husband was sick, and he got two children. And she did not know what to do, and it was just at the age of 17. Now you can understand the child marriage is also prevalent in those areas. If a guy comes with a bike and with a gold chain in their neck, the parents will be like, okay, I will be giving you my child. Now, that was the total area. Like, if you have something with you, I will be giving you my child. I am like rid of the responsibility. So what we can understand, the government schemes are actually not being played a major role in those areas. We are getting the government schemes in Kolkata, we are getting the government schemes in the so-called urban regions or in the rural regions of Bardhaman and areas, but the people who are staying in the Sundarbans are not getting the benefits of those regions. Number one. Number two is that, look at the relations. A girl is getting trafficked with the help of his brother-in-law. Like a person who is very close to her is helping her to get trafficked. And due to this thing, most of the cases remain unregistered, since the family is getting involved. Now how this girl is getting rescued? Now, while staying in the brothel, she had made friend with one guy who used to like supply the alcohols to the customers and everything. So she bought a mobile with the help of that guy, and she used to just remember the number of her brother. So he just called him up and said, look, I'm in Pune, I don't know the exact place. And one of the police inspectors, I don't want to name that person, but he was very active. He went to Pune, and they had raid over there, and he rescued her. Now, when he was rescued, the particular police station of the particular area where she was staying, she was asked that whether are you the citizen of West Bengal or are you the citizen of Jharkhand? Because by the looks, you seem to be a citizen of Jharkhand, a particular, resident of Jharkhand and not of West Bengal. But thankfully, she got that Aadhaar card, and with that identity, she was rescued and she was again sent back to West Bengal. Now, how many people can be rescued through this? It is not possible. There had been different raids by the NGOs over there. Durbar had been very active in that region. But Sundarban is something which is not yet had not actually gathered the vision of the chief minister or any ministers of any particular region. So that was the main problem. So, and I want to just conclude my paper by telling the post-rescue measures. There was hardly any post-rescue measures, and most of the families did not want to even gather they do not want to even take the help. They do not want to take the child in their arena. They used to exclude them from the family. The victim-centric post-rescue methods are needed, where the rehabilitation, along with all the things that through which they can actually gather something or they can actually earn something, should be done. So by this I come to conclude my paper, and thank you. There are other stories as well, but due to the constraint of time I could not tell, so thank you.
Good morning, respected chair and prominent personalities and other delegates. I am Shadil M. I belongs to Kerala, final year PG student in MS Sociology at Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit in Kerala. First of all, I am thankful to IIHSG for giving me an opportunity to present a paper in this conference. My topic is Understanding the Sociology of Healthcare Data Breaches and its Implication to Human Identity and Security in Contemporary Society. Healthcare data is one of the major concerns of human security. Surveillance is an essential task by the state. It is tied to the development of distinct method of social control and disciplinary power. When capitalism invades such control may lead to misdeeds and crimes. Healthcare data breaches and financial losses due to breached records are major threat to human security and identity. The methodology adopted for the study primarily deals with the content analysis of the secondary data, and my objective is to evaluate the size and forms of healthcare data breaches and to know how surveillance leads to cyber threats in the society, to analyze surveillance management and healthcare data breaches through a sociological lens. Electronic health record systems are replacing paper-based systems in the health sector, enabling to provide its clients with better and more affordable services. Such facilities improve patient care and provide constant access to patient health information. However, every good thing has a wrong side, and that is highly true in this matter. Smart devices are becoming an essential factor for such privacy violation. Compared to other sectors, healthcare has become one of the most negatively affected. Unauthorized individuals occasionally access these databases due to software defects, security failures, and employee errors. Analysis of healthcare data breaches according to Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, Journal 2023, July. It is a US Department of Healthcare and Human Services data. According to this report, there are 380 million healthcare records were exposed and improperly disclosed due to those breaches. This is equivalent to more than 1.2 times of the population of the US. There are lots of massive data breach occurs in also India. There is a record 1.5 crore citizen Indian, according to Indian Council of Medical Research. These events occur due to personal mistakes, carelessness, prying to fashion files, and data theft by nefarious insiders. Privacy is one of the distinct irreducible rights of human beings. The state must ensure privacy for individuals in society to improve human security. All unique identities, for example, our eye contact, fingerprints, health vulnerabilities, are stored by the system with the help of biometric facilities. To further argument, this paper tries to locate the challenges of healthcare data breaches by exploring two Malayalam films, Joseph, A Man with a Scar, directed by M. Padma Kumar, and CBI 5, The Brain, directed by K. Madhu. In Joseph, a man is admitted to hospital and the hospital authority takes the patient health data. After the discharge of such patient, the patient will be under surveillance at the hospital. At the time of organ transplantation, the hospital authority cross-matched the best donors from such admitted patient and kill them for organ trade. Such a hospital conduct massive organ trade by doing such healthcare data breaches. Another film titled CBI Part 5 is based on crime thriller. The director introduced a new technique of killing called basket killing this film. The culprit kills all victims by hacking the pacemaker fixed in the victim's body. Each victim in this film murdered in this way. Here the critical question is how the culprit knows that there is a pacemaker in the victim's body and how the culprit understands the health vulnerabilities of the victims. The point is however health details can be undergoing marketing for false activities and manipulation. Healthcare data breaches can make way for abundance for criminal activities. Then I understand the surveillance and healthcare data breaches through sociological lens. Here, both Beck and Giddens argue that capitalist industrial society gives way under tripartite forces of technology, consumerism, and globalization. There is a categorical shift in social structure and, more importantly, in the relation between the individual and society. The primary question is why the entire state creates the healthcare into data. According to David, Lyon argues that care and control are the two phases of surveillance. The growth of surveillance technology enables to manage risk and care for individuals in the society. It enables government, state agency to monitor and control population, but particularly as it will lead to threats and risks among individuals. Giddens defined two types of risks such as external risk and manufactured risk. External risk, which means that natural disasters like that. Theory, healthcare data breaches and cyber threats can be considered as a technological hazard and manufactured risk in society. There is another argument by Michel Foucault. It is necessary to consider argument. It is necessary to consider disciplinary power among the individual in society for care and control. Foucault argues the use of disciplinary power has expanded everywhere in the social structure. It is not only in prison. The surveillance is used to control the people. The criminals are not only subject. Every individual in society are subjected to surveillance. This can be workplace through a prominent. While the schools are also in control of the surveillance during the register monitoring system. While the state engage in such monitoring system, the state should ensure perfect cyber security for the individuals of the society. Otherwise, it will lead to data breaches and cyber crimes in society. So these threats will be catalyst for the formation of risk society where the individuals are usually subject to self-surveillance as told by the Jeremy Benjamin's panopticon theory. Conclusion, I will conclude my topic. Breaching of healthcare data might be opened the door of several illicit action. To effectively manage and secure individual health data, the system must appropriate measure to prevent such data breaches. So the privacy is essential right of our citizens. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you present here. My name is Damini from Guru Nanak Dev University. I am here to represent my topic, Global Evolving Nature of Gender and Security, with the question of third gender. Gender and security has always been a center of concern for the studies of international relations. Gender has states and act as an actor in an international arena with their main concern about security. According to state, what is security? Free from war, free from threat, free from military alliances and other things. But the paradigm shift in the nature of gender has changed this scenario of security and gave rise to different kinds of security, let's say environment security, gender security and all of it. Society has recognized only two genders earlier, like men and women. If a girl was born, his room decor must be pink. If a boy was born, his room decor must be blue, even though they have nothing to do with their own preferences. Now let's talk about gender security. Ensuring security to each and everyone without any discrimination is termed as gender security. Only by ensuring gender security, you can able to achieve those philosophies which nowadays exist merely on the terms of paper. Example, equality, fraternity, brotherhoods, liberty, and etc. Historically, claims has been made by women all over the world about gender and identity issues because we know that what is happening to women all around the world. We know that what happens to the women during the war. We have several kinds of war as an example. They are the one who are most prone to rapes. They are the one who are most prone to atrocities. That is why feminist perspectives has always been a center of importance and center of concerns by having the topic security and identity. Now let's move towards and talk about third gender people. The people who doesn't identify themselves under the binary social construct of men and women are termed as third gender. These people have to fight for their whole life. These people have to fight among themselves. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I abnormal? Why I am different from another people? They have to fight among themselves. Then they have to fight for their families. They have to fight in the schools, in the universities. They have to fight all around the world. If one could ask me, if one of you could ask me what is the most bravest things according to you, I would say to accept who you are. To accept who you are is one of the most bravest thing that a person could ever do. But these people, they are not awarded for this bravery, but they has been discriminated in each and every aspect, in every phase of their life. Let's see in simple example. How many third gender people are there in our legislations? If we talk about India or all over the world, how many third gender people are there? I am very shocked to know during my research that the annual income of third gender people is not more than 3,000 rupees annually. And most of them, they cannot able to do that also. And after their death, for example, let's take an example of Hijra community. It's very famous third gender community. Hijra community, after their death, their burial procedure must be on midnight so that nobody could able to see them. The members of these community, they surround among those dead bodies. They beat those dead bodies with slippers, with everything they have in their hands. And they pray, please, please don't reborn in your next life as third gender. See this kind of pathetic position, how can a simple human beings can even exist or even imagine? A simple gesture of going to public washrooms can bring the animosities to these people. See. Now, let's do some comparative analysis between the first world and the third world. As overall scenario, that third gender community has not been globally recognized, as I am very shocked to know that the UN affiliated only 27 countries have given the recognizations of the third gender people. Okay, now let's move toward the first world versus third world. First world, developed countries, modernity, and the third world, more traditionalistic society, developing countries, and this all. First world has been much accepting in the approach of third gender people as compared to the third world. Because we are more traditionalistic, stuck toward our own mentality. Let's take an example of the leader of the third world, India. What is the condition of third gender in India? We all know that. I strongly recommend to support the right for the third gender people. This is a contemporary issue which needs to be addressed. For each and every contemporary issues, let's say drug problems or environment problems, we have different kind of subjects in our schools and universities to educate the students, because education is one of the most powerful weapons which we can use to change the whole world. Why can't we do same in the case of third gender? Why can't we make people understand that they are not abnormal? They are too a human being. They have right to survival also. I recommend to have strong anti-discriminating policy against those who create this kind of scenario for the third gender people. I recommend to have public washrooms for these people. I opt to recommend to have reservations in the legislation for these people. On the global, then let's move toward the conclusion. Being a third gender is not a choice. It's not their fault. This is a contemporary issue which needs to be addressed. They are not hijras. They are not chakkas. They are the human being first, and we are too. So this is a community which needs to be respected, which needs to be protected. It's a time now, not in mere on papers only, not in the mirrors of only talks, in conferences, in lectures. It's a time to do something. It's time to raise our voice. It's time to have this contemporary issue raised to the global scenario and give them their rights, at least give them the rights to identity, marriage, adoption, at least give them the basic right to survival. That is why you can able to give equality to all the people which each and every constitution claims nowadays. Thank you and have a very nice day.
Good afternoon to all the lovely presenters and the faculty. So I'll be presenting a paper on the BBNJ, or as it's popularly known, the High Seas Treaty. Before that, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that this is a little out of my usual research topic, I am currently researching on the South China Sea, the legal, political, and the strategic dimensions of the South China Sea. But for this paper, because the theme of this conference is security, identity, and global governance, India and the world, I wanted to take a bit of a conservation-oriented approach. That is why I chose the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, which is the High Seas Treaty. So the backbone of the world's trade and commerce, the open seas, could be said to be witnessing the herald of a new age of global governance with the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, the BBNJ, or the United Nations High Seas Treaty. It's a legally binding instrument that aims to protect, conserve, and oversee sustainable usage of the marine life in areas beyond national jurisdiction. So I wanted to divide the understanding of this topic with respect to the theme of this conference, which is basically security. First, so I wanted to bring to attention the security aspects of why I've chosen this topic is basically I wanted to look at the even though I am traditionally looking at the traditional aspects of security in my research, but for this conference I wanted to look at the non-traditional security threats, which is basically threat to ecosystem and livelihood of the people that are dependent on the coastal ecosystems. So first of all, as the ocean basically makes up 90% of our ecosystem, and being the largest ecosystem, it's quite surprising that we haven't had a very concrete understanding of how to cooperate on a protective mechanism for the same. So I would like to bring your attention to my focus area, which is the South China Sea. So it is an area that is embroiled with a lot of territorial conflicts. If you are not aware, then it's basically a part of the Pacific Ocean. It's quite cramped with the countries that have merging economic zones there. So it's one of the busiest shipping lanes. Like 80 to 90% of the world's shipping passes through this area, which is why like the environmental degradation of this area is at stake, and there is heavy environmental degradation in this area, and there hasn't been any concrete actions that have been taken by the countries themselves to preserve this area. What I find like the BBNJ treaty over here might be helpful is because it has been difficult to come to a conclusive understanding of dividing the area peacefully. Due to the overlapping economic zones in the area, everyone wishes to claim the territory as their own. As we may have seen, a belligerent China also pushes back on the others' efforts to even practice their livelihood practices in the area. So I feel the BBNJ treaty is like a ray of hope in this area, because under the BBNJ treaty there is something called protected areas that propose that whenever it's ratified, the establishment of marine parks, so that there can be collaborative efforts in marine spaces that are threatened by human activities. Considering the fact that there has been no such successful efforts towards solving of the South China Sea issue, I feel like it seems like the BBNJ treaty offers like a concrete solution towards cooperation and also obviously sustainable development of the area. I think I also want to mention the identity aspect of this area. Like, since most of the nations that are present in the South China Sea have like about 60 to 90% dependence on the marine biodiversity for livelihood and also for their food security as well. And so I feel like putting this area under the BBNJ treaty might bring to focus the fact that the conservation efforts required for this place need to be taken a lot more seriously, because it's been reported that South China Sea area particularly has seen about a 90% degradation since the 1980s. Therefore, I feel like the identity of the countries in the South China Sea area should be shifting from a consumer, like the BBNJ Treaty could facilitate the shift of identity from a more consumer perspective to a conscious consumer perspective and a more conservation-oriented perspective, identity of countries in the area. Finally, the BBNJ Treaty promises to protect the ocean, promote equity and fairness, tackle environmental degradation, fight climate change, and prevent biodiversity loss in the high seas. I believe that this could be, like as an idealist, I believe that this could be a very, hopefully, a conclusive step towards peace in the South China Sea, as well as a major step towards conservation and sustainable development. Thank you.
Greetings everyone, I am Aksha Jain from Sri Venkateshwara College. The topic I will be presenting is Understanding Russia-Ukraine Crisis at the Convergence of Security, Identity and Global Governance. The condition of war and peace is inherent to international relations. However, the origins of both can be manifold and dynamic. Today's global politics is governed by the amalgamation of three important factors: security, identity and global governance, which also make the foundation of some of the basic theories of IR. Therefore, we need to look for the patterns and trends in world events at their convergence. Given this perspective, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis since 2014, with the annexation of Crimea, can be understood and analyzed in this framework. The resultant war has impacted the whole world through the supply chain disruptions, economic turmoil, and human rights talks. But most importantly, it has disrupted the lives of citizens of both countries. The paper aims to establish the relevance of ideational concept of human security in the times of war, reconsideration of identity as a cause of war, the efficacy of global governance mechanisms, and the convergence of these concepts in shaping the world order with special reference to Russia and Ukraine. The secondary data that I have used for the research has been taken from UNHRC, Datalion and RAND to supplement the study findings. And hereby I also found that contrary to the conventional state-centric approach of territorial sovereignty, it is imperative to embrace the human-centric security while also accounting the repercussions of these conflicts. Moreover, identity politics and a nation's growing security concerns also go hand in hand in this case. And lastly, the measures of global governance need to be strengthened and empowered enough to be put into place. The results which the research aims to establish have been categorized in the five broad categories. The first is the notion of human security, which also aims to safeguard both the individual and communities against various dangers of and identity related and discrimination on the basis of identity that takes place. And identity-based conflicts and the global governance. The threats to identity such as cultural suppression or persecution, such as which jeopardizes the society's overall security and stability. And it also talks about the migration and displacement. The identity and security issues are intersected by the movement of people across borders due to conflict, such as due to conflict, persecution and economic factors. Global governance mechanisms such as refugee conventions aim to provide protection and assistance. So in conclusion, I want to say that identity and insecurity, not security. Identity and insecurity are the underlying reasons, and these cannot be understated for the reasons being enough for escalating wars and engaging in crises like the present one in Ukraine. Global governance and international agreements are decisive in the aftermath, if not in the results of war. Unquestionably, a peaceful resolution to the issue is necessary, one that respects the sovereignty of Ukraine and its territorial integrity while also considering Russia's concerns. It will be vital for both the sides to be open to conversation and negotiations and to be willing to compromise. The influence of UN, EU, NATO, OSCE, and bilateral and multilateral diplomacy and sanctions in the crisis as global governance mechanisms is to be studied comprehensively as a field of future research. Thank you.
And please introduce yourself and also the topic.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Madhurima Pramanik, a PhD scholar from Academy of International Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia. The paper I'm presenting titled Climate Change and Migration in Bay of Bengal region, a study on urbanization in Kolkata and Dhaka. The Bay of Bengal is an enclosed sea from India on its west to Thailand in its east. The region, comprising of Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, and Thailand, is extremely vulnerable to climate change, intensifying life risk of the people living in the coastal region. While defining climate-induced migration, it raised debate between economic migrants and climate migrants. While economic migrants can be found to be influenced by both push and pull factors, climate migrants are found to, with no other alternatives but then to move from their place of inhabitants, and they are often finding out to be migrated in multiple stages over time. Kolkata and Dhaka are two neighboring cities that are only 150 to 250 kilometers apart from each other, depending on the route you take to go from one side to another, not only share similar history, culture, and language, but also the demography. So this paper aims to talk about the migration flows of Dhaka and Kolkata and the urbanization and the challenges it faced. Now coming to the demography of city of the Dhaka and Kolkata. The Dhaka is a densely populated city. This density is further compounded by several factors like unequal development, climate-related hazards, limited economic growth, and so on. The coastal regions of Bangladesh, inhabited by 35 million people, they are standing on the front lines of climate change impacts. Chittagong has been identified as a high alert zone due to high sea level rise. Notably, there is a continuous migration flows can be observed from Chittagong to Dhaka every year. Kolkata. This is the capital city of West Bengal. It's one of the oldest metropolitan cities in India. According to Bali Climate Conference, Kolkata has been listed as one of the threatened city by coastal flooding and rising sea level due to global warming. In close proximity to Kolkata situates Indian Sundarban, covering an extensive area of 10,000 square kilometers, and it's a home of 4.5 million people, inhabits by 553 islands. Kolkata also witnessed a huge influx of people towards Kolkata along with East Midnapur district. Coming to the role of the states to improve the situation. Bangladesh has adopted the Delta Plan 2100 aimed at bolstering resilience to climate change and other delta-related challenges to reduce vulnerability to natural disasters. Bangladesh has formulated NAPA, National Adaptation Program of Action, to address immediate critical adaptation needs. The Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan comprises 37 programs spanning 6 thematic areas, aiming to combat the adverse impacts of climate change and promote a low carbon economic growth trajectory. Coming to India, India also formulated the National Institute of Urban Affairs and the World Resource Institute that have crafted the first national coalition platform to mainstream eco-based services and nature-based solutions to build urban climate resilience. Kolkata also has drafted Kolkata's Climate Action Plan. Coming to the conclusion, climate, just like globalization, has no boundaries. As well depicted or highlighted by Global Climate Risk Index in 2021, the world's poorest nations, despite having the lowest levels of industrial pollution or contribution to the climate change, are remain as most susceptible to the effects of climate change. Back in 1992, UNFCCC well advocated common but different principles for the states to advocate this issue. UNDP report 1994 identified 7 values of human security, among which climate threat comes as one. BIMSTEC offers recommendation to hurdle the challenges and achieve the global agenda as laid down by SDGs and Paris Agreement on climate change. Under the UNFCCC's Paris Agreement, Bangladesh plans to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 5%. India also aims to cut down it by each unit in GDP 33 to 35% from its 2005 level by 2030. India at the conference of COP26 to the UNFCCC expressed its desire to intensify its climate action by presenting the world's 5 nectar elements, Panchamrit, of India's climate action. The update is also a step towards achieving net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2070. Recently in G20 Summit Delhi Declaration, India gave a huge importance to climate change challenges and also invited Bangladesh as a guest to attend the summit. It might pave the way for more interstate and intra-regional activities regarding climate change related vulnerabilities. At last, I would like to conclude it by saying, for a green, healthy environment for all, it is desired that we all the states and regions come together in a collaborative way for ensuring a good life for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. India's Green Initiatives in an Eco-Conscious World. Its topic is India's Green Initiative Forging Alliance in Eco-Conscious World. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Shubham Kumar. I am currently enrolled in PhD, newly enrolled in PhD in Jamia Millia Islamia. Today I present insights from my paper on India's green initiatives forging diplomatic alliances in an eco-conscious world. As we all know, our world confronts pressing issues like climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. In this context, environmental friendly diplomacy is crucial for fostering international cooperation. India as a key player in global climate discussions exemplifies this through its balance of economic growth with environmental stewardship. India's commitment to Paris Climate Agreement and active participation in the UNFCCC highlights its role in global climate discussions. Balancing economic growth with environmental sustainability, India sets an example for developing nations grappling with similar environmental challenges. A major thrust of India's green initiative is in the renewable energy sector. The launch of the National Action Plan on Climate Change and the Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission marked significant steps towards solar energy adoption. India's leadership in forming the International Solar Alliance in partnership with France reflects its commitment to promoting solar energy globally, focusing on solar-rich countries, especially the North Africa region. India's progress in wind energy is also noteworthy, ranking 4th globally in terms of installed capacity. This reflects India's strategic focus on this renewable resource, complemented by policies like wind-solar hybrid policy and the repowering policy for wind power projects. India's strategy includes collaboration with island nations vulnerable to climate change, technical financial capacity building support, especially in the renewable energy and climate resilience, are key aspects of this collaboration. India's efforts in these areas have facilitated access to affordable and clean energy, enhancing the sustainability and energy security in these nations. Now the challenges. India faces the challenges of aligning rapid economic growth with environmental sustainability. Issues like particle pollution from fossil fuels, rising CO2 emissions, and prioritizing economic incentives in foreign direct investment underscore the complexity of this balancing act. The influence of public opinion favoring economic growth over environmental concerns and the environmental Kuznets curve hypothesis further complicate this dynamic. Initially, India's climate diplomacy was driven by concerns for national sovereignty and independence. Post-economic liberalization and the end of the Cold War, there was a shift towards pragmatism in foreign policy. Active engagement with global economic arrangements, such as India's partnership in clean development mechanism of the Kyoto Protocol, marked this shift. The period leading up to the Copenhagen summit in 2009 was significant, with India showing greater flexibility in climate negotiations. The election of Modi-led government in 2014 further transformed India's foreign policy, emphasizing a greater role in global challenges and shaping the international norms. This period marked a transition from defensive stance to a proactive role in global climate negotiations. India's journey in environmental diplomacy and sustainable development reflects a blend of achievements and challenges. While the nation has made significant stride in renewable energy and international collaborations, it continues to navigate the complexities of balancing economic growth with environmental sustainability. Looking ahead, India's role in global environmental diplomacy is evolving, integrating economic development with environmental stewardship and strengthening participatory decision-making processes. India's commitment to sustainable development and renewable energy initiatives showcases its evolving role as a responsible global actor in addressing environmental challenges. Thank you for your attention to India's journey towards a sustainable and eco-conscious world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.